Hello, my name is Trent Jansen. In this presentation, I will be diving into the movie Inception, the field of psychology, and how we can combine movies and psychology to help those in need. Movies. We love watching them, analyzing them, discussing them, and then watching them again. Many of our favorite movies have tons of hidden meanings and nuances, though, that keep us coming back to them again and again. When we combine this with the field of psychology, there are many things we can learn from movies that can be applied to our everyday lives. Even though movies are primarily created to entertain us, they can still be used to teach us. For my presentation, I watched the movie Inception and found three psychological concepts that I want to discuss in greater detail. Before we jump in, I want to provide some background information and the general plot of the movie Inception. This movie was filmed in 2010 and directed by Christopher Nolan. In the film, the lead character, Cobb, is a professional dream thief in the art of extraction, stealing an idea from someone's subconscious. Cobb is hired by a powerful businessman named Saito to perform Inception. Inception is the opposite of extraction. It is the task of planting an idea in a subject's mind through dreams, something Cobb had only done once before. Saito wanted Cobb to convince the heir of Saito's largest business rival, Fisher, to break up his father's business empire. Cobb and a team of others set out to do this by going several layers deep into Fisher's dreams to place Saito's idea into Fisher's subconscious. Now let's jump into the psychological concepts that can be gleaned from this movie. There are many scenes in this movie that display a psychological concept or disorder. Some are very clear and obvious to see, while others are much more subtle. I believe it is important to be able to spot the more subtle concepts, as those are the ones that can really be used to help people that are struggling with not so easy to see disorders and other psychological issues. So, I selected three concepts that I believe are still fairly obvious, but still much more subtle than some of the main themes in the rest of the movie. The three psychological aspects from the film that we will look at in greater detail are 1. The effects of the unconscious on people's thoughts, actions, and decisions. 2. False memory and the distortion of it through encoding errors. And 3. The influences of people's perceived perception on their decisions. Alright, let's dive into the first scene and concept. The plot of the movie was for Cobb and his team to plant an idea in Fisher's unconscious mind. While in real life, obviously, this premise is impossible and a complete fantasy, the psychological concepts that can be learned from it are still applicable for us today. In the movie, the goal of Inception was that the idea would cause Fisher's conscious mind to decide to break up his father's business empire. The scene that sets up this idea is at the very beginning of the movie when Saito asks Cobb to put the idea in Fisher's unconscious mind, knowing that the unconscious affects the conscious parts of our brain. Saito made a deal with Cobb to try it, and the rest of the movie is about Inception and how dreams work. So how does this psychological concept work in real life? The unconsciousness is made up of our feelings, thoughts, and memories. When the brain is aware of them, they are in what is called the conscious mind. For example, people are not always conscious about their memories, but they can recall them from the unconscious in most instances. The unconscious mind also influences the behavior of the conscious mind. If someone carries a traumatic past, for example, from their childhood, even if they are not conscious of all the details of it, that past may cause them to live with PTSD or some other negative consequence. Roughly 90% of people's memories lie in the unconscious part of their mind, with only 10% being the conscious at any given time. People can remember something that they have not thought about for a long time. However, much of the unconscious remains in the unconscious. This means it cannot directly be recalled. Instead of those memories being directly recalled to the conscious, they only affect other parts of the conscious. The second psychological concept displayed in the movie is about false memory and its distortion through encoding errors. In the scene, Cobb is confronted by his deceased wife in the dream state limbo and must decide whether to remain there with her or not. Limbo is the deepest level of dreaming, and his wife Mal is an antagonist throughout the film who died by suicide. Cobb is deeply grieved by the memories of her and feels guilt as he believes he played a part in her death. But in this scene, he finally realizes that the memories he has created of her that appear in his dreams are not like the real life Mal. He tells her, "I cannot imagine you with all your complexity. You are just a shade of my real wife." His encoding of those memories was not accurate. They were false memories that were clouded by guilt and grief. While Cobb would enter into the dream state to spend time with his wife, his memories of her that arose in his dream were affected by a false memory of who she was in real life. This caused him to feel guilt for her death, as he blamed himself for what happened to her. He could not let her go and wanted to keep seeing her in his dreams, but the memories he had of her that projected into his dreams were false. When he finally realized that, he was able to let her go. And most importantly, he is free of the guilt he is experiencing. False memories occur because of errors in our encoding system. When people experience things, they encode them into memories. Sometimes, however, there are errors in this encoding. Their memories become distorted. When this happens, people lose entire portions of their memory, have memories of things that never happened, or replace or remove details of that memory. Even though they firmly believe that their memories are legitimate, there are details to those memories that are wrong or never even happened in the first place. This causes people to have parts in their memories that they think happened or are true, but are really not. And now, the third scene and concept. The third concept is about the influences of people's perceived perception on their decisions. The scene that depicts this concept comes almost at the very end of the movie, when Fisher breaks into his own subconscious safe to share it with Cobb and his team so the idea could be planted. To gain access to the safe, Fisher is confronted by his dying father. Fisher had always perceived that his father did not love him or approve of him, causing him to feel that he could never live up to the person his father wanted him to be. But in this moment, Fisher's father gave a message of love and understanding, telling Fisher that he loved him for who he was and to be his own man. Now, with this idea which Cobb had planted into his mind, Fisher perceived that his father did in fact love him. He now believed that his father approved and loved him for who he was, knowing that his son would never be the successful businessman that he had wanted him to be. With his new perception, Cobb's idea convinced Fisher that he could break up his father's business empire without letting his father down. This scene shows the power of how individuals believe other people perceive them. Fisher only went along with the idea because he first perceived that his father was okay with him doing it. Perception refers to the way sensory information is organized, interpreted, and consciously experienced. Many people will or will not do something based on how they believe other people will perceive them. If they believe that someone will have a positive perception of them if they do something, they'll be more likely to do it. However, on the flip side, if they believe there will be a negative perception or judging of them, they will tend not to do it. Many people live every action of their life based on how they believe others will perceive them. If they can just get past the idea that those whom they love will love them in return no matter what kind of a job they do, they will be more apt to try new endeavors. We need to focus on ourselves and not let outside opinions shape who we are and what we do. In conclusion, how can we use this information to help others? The Bible is very clear that we are to help those in need. Jesus was constantly serving those who needed help, and as Christians, we should strive to be more like him. Whether you're a psychologist, a therapy specialist, or just a normal person like me, there is something we all can do to help those around us. Our minds play a crucial part of our lives, and all too often, people who struggle mentally are looked down upon as weak. This is the opposite of what must be done. The first step we can all take is being more aware of the issues people around us have going on, and at the very least be there for them. The more we can learn about psychology from not just movies, but all around us in life, the more we can do to help. Movies are a great way to find psychological concepts and learn things we can use to help those in need. Thank you for listening to this presentation. I sincerely appreciate it. Now let's go out into the world and let's make a difference.